Hello parents, so welcome to this page. So if I've sent you here, this means you've brought one of your special needs kids to my office. I work with a lot of kids on the spectrum and ADHD, autism, all the different alphabet soup that you might consider. Just so you know, these kids are very special and it's a great honor for me to work for them. It can be challenging definitely for you, and I give my hats off to any parent that has a child that has these special needs because it's a very difficult time. So what I'm going to do on this page, I'm going to highlight a few different products or things you might consider to help the other aspects of this child, because it's a very multifaceted thing to deal with. So me with the chiropractic, I'm dealing with the function of the spine, the nervous system, trying to get the brain as balanced as we can with the two hemispheres working evenly so that the body can have good regulation from the brain down. There's a lot of other things that are also necessary that I won't necessarily do, like there's a whole diet and all those kind of things that may be handled by a naturopath or special nutritionists that are kind of dealing specifically with autism. I'll touch on some of that. But there's a few kind of very special products that we have here that might be extremely beneficial for a rounding out that they're not necessarily available, or a lot of people might not know they exist. So what I'm going to do on this resource page, I'm going to go through a couple of the things. Because when you're dealing with an autistic kid, there's a number of different aspects to it. So obviously the brain is really important with what I do, but most people kind of realize now that there's a big connection between the intestines, the whole gut, and the brain, and both of those need to be working properly. So I'm going to be working on this aspect of it, but with the diet and some nutritional things, you're going to work on this aspect with the gut. So there's a very specific product that we have that's very, very important for that aspect of it. And it's not that common and it's not that well known, but it's really important. So on this page, what I'm going to do, I'm going to break down each one of these couple products. I'm going to talk about the concepts of why it is important. I might show you a video or two of like people that have used these things, or give you an idea of testimonials and things like that. But I'll give you an idea of what you should do and why it would be important for you to implement these as well when you're trying to round out the whole aspect of helping your child. So I'm going to just overview a couple of the things first. So the gut aspect of it, there's a product called, it used to be called Restore, and now it's called Ion, or Ion Biome is kind of the product. So it's dealing with the health of the intestines. Not just the bacteria, but the actual wall of the intestines, the cells that make up the wall. And that's really important because a lot of products that are sprayed in our environment and on our crops now actually make the wall of the intestines not have good integrity. And when that's a problem, that can lead to problems in the blood, which can lead to problems in the brain, and how the body responds, and inflammation, and a bunch of other things. So I'll talk about that in a video below. After that, there's another product that's important for heavy metals and toxicants that are in your the body of the child. So toxins are made by the body, like when the body's breaking down a product. A toxicant is something from the environment that can get into the body and cause problems. So those could be things like microplastics, pollutants, heavy metals, and things like that. Having those things clear from the body is very important, because one of the big aspects of autism is that the children have had difficulty, or they've been challenged in a certain way that their body can't get rid of some of these toxicants, that the neurotypical child, their elimination system was working properly and it was able to take those toxins out of the body. But in the case of your special child, those toxicants had the access to the brain and probably caused a big cascade of inflammation in the brain that totally changed and derouted their behavior and caused problems with the brain functioning. Being able to get those toxicants out of the body and have your body clear them is a really important thing. And fortunately, there's a product that basically tastes like water. It's just a spray. But there's a lot of moms that talk about this, and a lot of people that have a lot of testimonies about how this has actually helped improve their children. So I'll talk about that product a little lower down, and I'll have its own video for that. The other thing, the last thing, there's talking about the health of your nerves, because I'm working with the brain and the nerve system. Most of you know that the nerves have a covering around it. It's like an insulation. And there's a specific kind of fats that cover the nerves that keep them working independently of each other. It's just like the wiring in your house. The wiring always has this plastic coating on it, because if two wires touch, it can cause short circuits and cause a lot of problems. And something like that can be happening in the brain of the kids as well. causing sometimes maybe Tourette's or flailing behaviors or things like that when things are just kind of short-circuiting in the brain. So the integrity of the covering and the nerves themselves is really important. And there's a very special product that's produced in the northern part of Canada that's actually very important for the health of the nerves. And so I'll go into that. The product is called Auum, A-U-U-M, and it's a special type of oil, and that'll be another video on the bottom of the page. So those are the main things I'm going to be talking about. There's a whole dietary aspect of things as well. So I'll just make a video on sort of like the main foods that are kind of trigger foods for these things. So the product I was talking about, you kind of need to improve the integrity of the intestines, and then you can start thinking about, okay, let's eliminate some of these foods that are just basically common triggers for most of the kids on the spectrum. So I'll go over the general categories and kind of give you an idea of what you might want to do and how you might want to integrate things. The one thing I'd like to recommend, anytime you think you might be using some of these products, use one of them at a time individually for a number of days so you see what kind of reaction happens with your kids. Some kids don't react at all. Other kids may have, you do one spray in the mouth with one of these things, then they might have a huge reaction. So you have to be aware of that. So don't do more than one thing at a time, because then you don't know what might be causing the reaction. Because it's really important to watch what's happening day by day and see what kind of reactions are coming out. The last thing I want to mention is when we do our work, and sometimes when you do these things, sometimes parents might have a child that doesn't speak at all. And then maybe when we start doing this work or you do some of these protocols, they start to speak. And they might say some words that you don't like. Maybe they're going to start saying no to you, and before they never said anything, and now all of a sudden you have this defiant child. Well, obviously you want a child that can communicate, so you might have to go through these challenging times, because when we do our work, if the right hemisphere starts to come online when it wasn't working properly before, the child might be sad all of a sudden, or they might be aggressive for the first time. They might go through the terrible chews right in front of you before they weren't doing anything, or maybe they've been spinning around and stimming for a long time, and now they're not moving and they're falling asleep, or they're bedwetting now when they weren't before, and little things like that. So these kind of things can kind of happen when the brain is kind of waking up, refining patterns, going through processes that maybe it hadn't done before that most normal kids would have already done. But maybe you have a 6-year-old that hasn't potty trained now, and maybe they're starting to go to the bathroom or realize they need to go, and there's things that will change. So I always tell people any kind of change is good, but sometimes it can be challenging for you as the parent, because you're saying, okay, this is different now, maybe it seems like it's worse. And sometimes it might get worse before it gets better, and it has to go through these phases. So a lot of it is patience, a lot of it is just trusting the process and seeing how it goes. So once again, you got some videos below. Take your time, watch each one of them to get an idea of what they are. We have these products here in the office, so just let us know if you want to start integrating some of them, and we'll go through that and hold your hand during the process. So thanks for being here, and thanks for thinking of your child, because these kids are really important to me and to all of us here. So take care, and we'll see you in the next video.